The F1 grid for 2025 isn't getting any clearer very quickly. 7 of the 10 teams still don't have a driver lineup, 8 if you want to throw in Aston Martin, but you probably shouldn't. The bottom 5 teams in particular are almost a complete mystery, with just Williams and Sauber with a confirmed driver for 2025. With so many drivers out of contract and so many seats available, they're all doing everything they can to sell themselves to the grid, and that means that some teams, certain drivers are getting completely shown up. There is no one an F1 driver wants to beat more than their own teammate, and when your seat is on the line, doing so is all the more important. Today, I'll check out the drivers who are putting themselves at serious risk of losing an F1 seat by getting destroyed by their teammates. So, don't go anywhere. The 2024 F1 season has seen some surprising disparities between the performances of the 2 drivers on each F1 team. In some cases, such as at Red Bull and Williams, we expect there to be a disparity. At a team like McLaren, Ferrari, or Mercedes though, you expect the 2 drivers to be pushing each other, sharing the spoils in the qualifying battles. Not that that is happening at Mercedes this year, as George Russell has outqualified Lewis Hamilton 7 times in 8 races. It is at Sauber, VCARB and Alpine though that the intra-team battle has been so perplexing. Starting with Alpine, Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon have been relatively closely matched all season. The 2 French teammates have managed to accrue a point apiece in the Drivers' Championship, behind the wheel of what has proved to be a pretty terrible car this season. Alpine underwent major upheaval in 2023, with a majority of its high-end staff including team principal Otmar Safnauer, Sporting Director Alan Permain, Chief Technical Officer Pat Fry, and Director of Racing Expansion Projects David Brivio cast aside or replaced. The team are feeling the effects of that lack of stability this season. Both drivers are out of contract at the end of the year, and neither have given any kind of hint that they want to stay at their current team, presumably interested in a move to a more competitive team, or at least one with some better prospects. Seats further forward on the grid are few and far between though, especially if the heavily rumoured contract extension for Sergio Perez happens. At the moment, they're racing each other to make themselves look as attractive as possible to their new prospective teams, but in Monaco, Esteban Ocon went too far in his desperation to get himself ahead of his teammate. Alpine boss Bruno Famin said after the race that there will be consequences after Esteban Ocon collided with teammate Pierre Gasly on the opening lap of the Grand Prix. Ocon's car was lifted in the air when he made tyre-to-tyre contact with Gasly after driving down the inside of Portier. What went largely unseen was the contact just a few corners earlier at Casino, where Ocon tried to force himself into a gap that wasn't there around the outside of the sweeping left-hander. When the 2 were paired up at the team, the narrative was that 2 old enemies would come together and cause hell for Alpine. Ocon in particular has a bad reputation for fighting far too hard with his teammates. For the most part, the battle between them has stayed acceptable, but in Monaco, a line was crossed. The consequences that Bruno Famin spoke of after the race are now widely to believe a missed race for Esteban Ocon. A number of sources have reported that he will be dropped for the Canadian Grand Prix, and the team's promising reserve driver, Jack Doohan, will take his place. Esteban's attack was completely out of line. It's exactly what we didn't want to see, and there will be consequences, Famin said. We're going to make a tough decision. On the first lap at Portier, it was not the place to make a move, leaving no room for his teammate. To be dropped as punishment would be extreme, and with no contract for 2025, it would be a massive red flag to any prospective team thinking of hiring him. Toto Wolff certainly wouldn't be interested in repeating Hamilton versus Rosberg, but with George and Esteban instead. One team where the lack of a battle between the 2 teammates is a problem is VCARB. Yuki Tsunoda looks like a driver reinvented this season, as his incredible performances have put Daniel Ricciardo to shame. 6 points finishes in the last 7 races have seen him accumulate 19 championship points to his teammates' 5, which came thanks to a freak qualifying performance for the Miami sprint race. Yuki Tsunoda was thrilled to score his very first points at Monaco on Sunday, a result he says shows his growing consistency as he looks to cement his future on the F1 grid. While Yuki's consistently excellent performances have made him a favourite to remain in F1 beyond 2024, his teammates' consistently poor performance have made him a favourite to be axed. Ricciardo has been outqualified 7-1 and has only finished ahead of Yuki once at the season's opening round. He was the only driver to lose paces off the line in Monaco, losing out to the Aston Martin duo of Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll early in the race, and spent much of the Grand Prix following behind them, eventually ending the day in his original starting position of P12. Over the weekend, team principal Peter Bayer told reporters that VCARB were happy with both current race drivers, and their focus was more on chasing Aston Martin in front of them than on driver discussions. While Yuki Tsunoda's place has been under threat in the past, he looks the likeliest to retain a seat for next season if he isn't snapped up by another team. Daniel Ricciardo, though, must have more secret photos from Christian Horner's phone for the team to say they're still happy with him. With Liam Lawson waiting in the wings, the Aussie's poor performances are playing him out of contention for a contract extension, never mind that Red Bull seat that he so desperately wants. With Sergio Perez likely to be confirmed in the second Red Bull seat in the coming week, Ricciardo's dream return to a podium-contending car is completely dashed, but sadly, he only has himself to blame. Christian Horner has hinted at the depth of talent waiting in the wings, providing a subtle but clear warning to Ricciardo about the competition he faces, not only from his current teammate, but from other promising drivers in the team's portfolio, including reserve driver Liam Lawson. Liam is undoubtedly keen to get back into a race situation. The drivers in Formula 2 are performing well at the moment, Formula 3 likewise, so we have a strong vein of talent, he said. While it is youthful talent trumping hard-earned experience at VCARB, the exact opposite is true at Sauber. The team in bright green have been almost completely overlooked this season, and it's easy to know why. They have by far the worst car on the grid, and at the moment haven't even looked close to profiting from the usual low-ranking points available to the back five teams. In terms of TV and media coverage, that anonymity has been exceptional in itself. Despite appearances, though, they have been participating, and while Zhou Guan Yu may sit above Valtteri Bottas in the Drivers' Championship thanks to an 11th place finish in Bahrain, the driver battle is only going one way. Bottas has managed to out-qualify Zhou in every race so far this season, and if Sauber's pit stops weren't as slow as my local tyre shops were, Valtteri might even have had a point finish or two this season. It's easy to look back at Valtteri's days at Mercedes and just remember Hamilton beating him, but across the 5 seasons the two were together, Bottas won the qualifying battle a third of the time. He is a fast driver. That hasn't changed. He's just suffering the unfortunate fate of driving the worst car on the grid. Bottas may not be the best driver on the grid, but he's a long way from being the worst, and with young drivers likely popping up across the grid next year, he'll provide a great sounding board for the rookie he ends up alongside in 2025, whichever team that may be at. While neither have grabbed headlines, Bottas has been proving that Zhou Guan Yu isn't up to F1 standard. An emotional home race in China will be a great memory to take away with him, but apart from that, Zhou really hasn't got much to show for his time in F1. With Bottas as a teammate for all 3 of his seasons, he hasn't ever caught headlines with his driving. The large amount of sponsorship money that came with him has always been a part of the reason for his drive in Formula 1. But with Audi stepping in for Sauber in 2026, money isn't really a problem anymore. Unless he can stop himself being soundly outqualified by his teammate at every race, and do so soon, Zhou will be driverless in 2025. What do you think of the current F1 teammate matchups? Are the likes of Zhou Guan Yu and Daniel Ricciardo able to do anything to get themselves a seat next season? Or are they being driven out of the sport by their own teammates? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.